It's like Ann Arbor is another good example, okay? Motherfuckers who live in Ann Arbor, but then like turn around and say, oh yeah, I'm from Detroit, bro. I'm from Flint, bro. Like, no, you're not. You're from Ann Arbor, okay? You grew up in Ann Arbor in a very wealthy neighborhood, and your parents are doctors. Like, shut the fuck up. The same exact thing happened to you. You grew up in fucking Naperville in a like predominantly white neighborhood in a mostly white fucking school, and now you're saying you went to Chicago. Like, you grew up in fucking Chicago. Like, you didn't. Anyway. Okay. No, I ran an ad before. It's just my second of the day now. Here's a 1-minute ad. If you no longer want to see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5 or for free by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Here's the ad now. Thank you for saying this. I'm from actual Chicago and I deal with this all the time. Okay. Malibu's Most Wanted type beat. Yeah, I already finished the video. I just went back and scaled it back to a place where she's on camera for a second. Okay. When people ask like why the violence happens or whatever the fuck, now you know, okay? There's a Harry Meghan interview. There's a lot of hogwash, like conservative reactions to certain things that happened already. But there was one more thing that I wanted to. Oh, what is this? Trump repeats election lies. Did you see the Nazi self-report of the Fash rally in New York City yesterday? What?
Little chicken shit. If I ever see you in a dark alley, I'm gonna kick the living shit out of you, you fucking Nazi fuck. Yeah, you're a Nazi.
I'm a National Socialist, not a Nazi.
That's what the Nazis are, you stupid motherfucker.
Dude, people are so dumb, dude. Oh, I'm a National Socialist. I'm not a Nazi. Oh, okay. I didn't realize. Sorry. I didn't realize. Oh, never mind. Oops. Idiot. Okay. We're not going to look into the active shooting that's happening in Knoxville right now, okay? Dude, I can't cover a breaking school shooting right now, dude. It's not happening. Stop sending me the link to a breaking news story. I tell you all the time, like, we don't do fucking breaking news stories like that unless it's to address like actual misinformation that's being deliberately and willingly spread at the time. Okay? Yes, America's back. Our main fucking pandemic. Now that we're getting out of one pandemic, our main epidemic is back, which is gun violence and school shootings. Nature is healing. America is going back to having mass shooting incidents, school shooting incidents in general. We're back, baby. I feel like you have to say this line every few weeks. Every week, not every few weeks. There is a serious fucking there's a serious mass shooting incident. There's like always a breaking news story about yet another mass shooting that occurs seemingly every fucking week. And because it happens seemingly every fucking week, I have to say the same things every fucking week. Like, hey, we can't cover this breaking news story. I'm sorry. But here we are. I mean, this is I guess the greatest indication that COVID is ending as a pandemic. Speaking of COVID pandemic, though, I wanted to talk about it. We are currently vaccinating 3 million people here in the United States. America is doing significantly better than European nations, significantly better than most other countries, partially because we are literally not allowing other countries to get the vaccines so that we can vaccine ourselves. There's a significant amount of vaccine nationalism going on currently. The New York Times Daily actually had an entire report on where Europe fucked up with vaccine delivery, and how they thought that the free market capitalist structure that they love to enforce at the EU was going to allow them to personally have vaccines readily available because they paid for it. When countries that actually paid for the R&D and dumped billions of dollars into the research and development and the distribution, like the United States of America, were of course still going to get vaccines ahead of time. The UK, it's not a part of the fucking European Union anymore, is doing better with vaccine distribution as well in comparison to other European countries. There was also a minor setback with AstraZeneca vaccines that Oxford came out with. That is the majority of the vaccines that you're seeing around the world. There was fears that it was creating blood clots that could even be fatal in certain instances. So, there was a little bit of a setback there. But the UK and the United States have done very well overall. With AstraZeneca is not bad, no. So, it's ultimately America has done actually pretty fucking well with. It's confirmed by the EMA with blood clots, but the rates are so low that the benefits outweigh risk. Yes, the blood clotting rates are very, very low. Anyway, as I was saying, we have we're vaccinating 3 million people, including your boy who's going to get his first shot tomorrow. Fingers crossed, okay? Despite the fact that I don't have fucking health insurance anymore. America is doing very well. There are countries like, obviously, Israel is doing the best in the world for the most part, with like 65% of the country being vaccinated. America's at like 20+% right now. We're trying to get to 80%. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. But ultimately, we are doing pretty fucking well.
Good evening,
However, COVID is still spreading like wildfire in certain areas.
everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with the increasingly desperate situation in COVID.
Especially in Europe, where COVID is really, really spreading like wildfire.
Across the country and the fears of a fourth wave. Frontline medical workers in Michigan tell us the virus is spreading like wildfire there. Hospitals filling up, some patients facing 8 to 10-hour wait times. The state's governor begging the federal government again for more vaccines. At the same time, the U.S. has just hit a record number of vaccinations in a single day. More than 4.6 million shots reported on Saturday alone. And by the end of this coming week, 42 states will have opened eligibility to everyone 16 and over. But the pace of vaccinations could be slowed with the supply of Johnson & Johnson doses plummeting. And health officials warn about an uptick in cases nationwide. ABC's Trevor Ault leads us off tonight from New York.
Tonight, healthcare workers on the front lines in Michigan battling the worst of a new coronavirus surge, saying the virus is spreading like wildfire.
It's breaking our hearts. We're exhausted emotionally.
ICU nurse Kim Stasik telling us Monday was the worst shift of her 15-year career.
I was going room to room to room for all 8 hours, and there was nothing else that I could give them, nothing else that I could do. You just wait and watch and hope that they make it through your shift.
With hospital admissions in the upper Midwest jumping nearly 30% over the past week, north of Detroit, nurse Jeff Morosky says patients are facing wait times of 8 to 10 hours.
How does this compare to the worst of it last year?
I think it's worse. We don't have enough, people to give the care that we need to. Nurses are leaving in droves.
The federal government now sending Michigan more personnel to administer vaccines, though Governor Gretchen Whitmer doubling down that what her state needs is.
Do you have suggestions on how to deal with friends that are saying the vaccines are bad and untested and dangerous? Ask them why they would rather ask them if they believe in science, okay? Here's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you believe in science, or are you a fucking caveman, okay? Because the fact that you think you're rolling the dice on a scientific achievement and that is technically a reality that you literally roll the dice on like every single fucking medication that you take. means that you'd rather believe in science than let nature play its fucking part. Okay? Some hogs literally are just like, nah, fuck it. I'm Mr. Nature. I believe that I'll roll over with COVID. Well, in either circumstance, you're rolling the dice. With one, you at least are rolling the dice on science that is tested and has minimal side effects, versus you're rolling the dice on nature, which has proven to kill, and also on top of that has some long-term side effects that we have no fucking clue what will happen with. So I would rather roll the dice on science than roll the fucking dice on nature. I'm a human being. I believe that one of the most profound accomplishments of human nature is our capability of adapting to any circumstance and literally overcoming the setbacks afforded to us by nature itself. So that's why I'd rather fucking take the vaccine rather than, eat the fucking worst side effects of a potential disease that can, have irreversible long-term damage.
Is more shots.
When there is a surge, we think that it's important that we rush in to meet where that need is.
And tonight, the country bracing for an 85% drop in the supply of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine this week. A potential speed bump just as a record 4.6 million shots were reported on Saturday.
Last week, we got around 20,000 doses. This next week, we're only getting about 2,500 doses.
And health officials say in that wait for the vaccine, younger adults are getting infected. Like New York's Alfredo Hercules, an active, healthy 39-year-old now reunited with his family after 72 days in the hospital.
This is the second chance, and I'm not going to waste it.
Grateful for that second chance. Trevor Ault joins us now from a mass vaccination site here in New York City. And Trevor, there's a new study that raises concerns about the effectiveness of the Pfizer vaccine against one of the concerning virus variants. Tell us more about that.
Well, Lindsay, this study's out of Israel, and it found that among people vaccinated by Pfizer, the South African variant may be more likely to break through and infect people than the UK variant. Though it is worth noting these breakthrough infections are still rare overall.
50% of COVID patients suffer mild to severe side effects even after a year. These motherfuckers are nuts if they rather roll the dice with COVID. Yeah, I don't understand. Like, there's brain fog and other, like, minimal or other like, side effects that we literally have not even concluded. I would much rather fucking roll the dice on science than nature.
Trevor, our thanks to you.
Yeah, there could be, like, fucking long-term complications and mental capacity, shit like that. I'm already a dumbass, okay? Listen, here's the thing, okay? I'm already a fucking idiot. I'm not willing to fucking roll the dice and take an additional risk on being even dumber than I am. And if you watch me, you're probably a fucking dumbass too. Let's be real, okay? You don't want to be dumber than you already are. Especially conservative motherfuckers. Like, come on, bro. You are literally a conservative, which means you already have, like, perhaps an untreatable brain problem to begin with. I think Dr. Fauci's like going a little overboard with the fears, the COVID fears. Who knows? It does seem like, now with the vaccinations, like, especially if we vaccinate, like, at the rate that we're vaccinating, it does feel like we're going to reach herd immunity by, July or whatever. And hopefully we'll have, things will start getting back to normal. Anyway, long-term care. Moving on.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns nursing homes. The absolute last thing you want Andrew Cuomo to be handling, tied comfortably with literally anything else. Nursing homes and long-term care in general are something that we tend to try to avoid thinking about, but the truth is, whether due to old age or disability, many of us do or will require help with daily living. The number of Americans 65 and older is projected to nearly double over the next 40 years. And what
Here, I haven't even seen the Fauci position, but I'll just fucking go back to it because people are going to get mad at me if I don't cover it. The problem is, people feel like COVID is over. It's not fucking over, okay? And if a fuckload of people who haven't even been vaccinated yet are starting to react like, starting to run around as though COVID is fully good to go, then you're going to run into complications. You're going to run into problems. You're going to actually end up having a large percentage of the population that hasn't been vaccinated run around as though they have been, and start spreading mutated strains. Feel me? Start spreading mutated fucking strains, and it's going to be very, very difficult to manage.
Fauci, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight. I know your time is tight, so let's get straight to it. What is your message tonight to both vaccinated and unvaccinated Americans as to what they should and should not be doing right now? For example, eating and drinking indoors in restaurants and bars. Is that okay now?
No, it's still not okay for the simple reason that the level of infection, the dynamics of infection in the community are still really disturbingly high. Like just yesterday, there were close to 80,000 new infections, and we've been hanging around 60, 70, 75,000. So if you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated as soon as vaccine becomes available to you. And if you are vaccinated...
I'm a biology student. No, there aren't any risk-causing long-term dangers. No, dude, I'm saying there are long-term dangers of COVID versus, like, the unsubstantiated fears of, like, rolling the dice on medication. You misunderstood me.
Please remember that you still have to be careful and not get involved in crowded situations, particularly indoors where people are not wearing masks. And for the time being, until we show definitively that a person who's vaccinated does not get this subclinical infection and can spread to others, you should also continue to wear a mask for the time being.
And Pfizer, Dr. Fauci, announced last week that their vaccine is effective for at least 6 months. So should we be prepared to get COVID vaccine booster shots now every 6 months, 12 months, like we get the flu shot? Is that something we should plan for?
You know, we need to be...
Bro, stop linking fucking Food Insider videos. I'm clearly not going to do that reaction right now. I'm doing news, okay?
Careful about that 6-month number. The study only went out as far as 6 months. So we know for sure it's effective for 6 months, but it's highly likely that it will be effective for a considerably longer period of time. The way to get the answer is to just follow people closely enough to determine when that level of efficacy or protection diminishes, both with regard to the level of the antibodies as well as clinical data with regard to breakthrough infection. So good news is that it's at least 6 months. Hopefully it'll be a lot more. But in direct answer to your question, if it turns out that it is a year or a year and a half, we very well may need to get booster shots to keep up the level of protection.
Well, something to get used to, I guess. And on the subject of herd immunity, you talked about, wear your masks, even if you're vaccinated. Don't just pretend life is back to normal. It's not yet, clearly. Do you have a date in mind for when we get to herd immunity? How will we know when we've reached it? Will you or President Biden just announce it one morning from White House podium?
Well, it's not going to be that simple. I really believe that herd immunity with regard to COVID-19 is a little bit of an elusive concept because we don't know what that level of percent of people who are vaccinated plus people who are infected, recovered, and are now immune to reinfection. We don't know what that number is. We know what it is, for example, for a disease like measles, but we don't know yet what it is for SARS-CoV-2. So the best way to look at it is just get as many people vaccinated as we possibly can, as quickly as we can, and what you will see definitely is a diminution in the number of cases per day to the point where you get down to a very low level. When you get there, then you could say you're in a much more protected zone. If you want to call that herd immunity, you can't really say that because you're not going to know what the specific number is. But just concentrate on getting vaccinated as many as you can, as quickly as you can.
Yes, and the vaccine rollout has been a huge success in recent weeks. A record 4.6 million people vaccinated yesterday. 1 in 4 Americans now fully vaccinated. But that still leaves 3 out of 4 who aren't. And in Michigan, where they have...
Bro, those are some good-ass numbers, bro. Those are some good fucking numbers,
having a
dude.
horrific surge right now. The governor asked for a surge in vaccines, but the White House rebuffed her. Professor Ashish Jha, who you know, Dean of Public Health at Brown, says, quote, I would be surging a lot of vaccines to Michigan right now. To me, this is a no-brainer policy, and I would be curious to hear why the Biden team hasn't done this. Why hasn't the Biden team, your team, Dr. Fauci, done this?
Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first is that you want to make sure that the vaccines that are currently there in Michigan are being efficiently distributed and put into people's arms. So you have the leeway and the possibility of doing some adjustments within the state of Michigan. I doubt if it's unidimensional in Michigan that the level of infection in one section, one region, one city, one town is different. I'm sure there's a big difference. So what you want to do, if you can, redistribute within the state. One of the reasons why we're hesitant to make that kind of redistribution, because when you take it away from one state, you never know where you're going to have another surge. So you may inadvertently be essentially facilitating a surge in one place by pulling vaccines away as you're trying to prevent it or blunt it in another state. And for that reason, we say do as best as you can to efficiently get people vaccinated within your state, because there's more vaccines in Michigan than there are people vaccinated.
Okay. Fair point on the numbers. The Trump administration was a disaster on COVID. We opened the show talking about how Trump officials altered CDC reports. Donald Trump reportedly lashed out at you again, Dr. Fauci, in a speech last night, calling you, quote, full of crap. And I know you probably don't want to ever hear his voice again, but he said something similar on Fox last month. Have a listen.
Saw him throw out the first pitch in Washington, right? He is a better pitcher than he is at what he does. If you really look, I didn't really listen to him too much because I was doing the opposite of what he was saying.
I know you've said in the past you didn't resign because you didn't want to leave a void. Completely understandable. But do you regret staying on if he now says he wasn't even listening to you? He was doing the opposite and gagging you in the process. So why didn't you just quit and speak out freely about the dangers?
I mean, that's kind of a silly question because it's like, what is he supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to fucking listen to him. Everyone's going to listen to Trump and whoever the fucking foremost authority is.
Well, I think for the reason that you just mentioned, because I did feel that if I left, there would not be a voice there to push back against some of the things that were going on there. I don't want to get into a tit for tat with former President Trump.
There are people who took the vaccine double dose and are back in the hospital with COVID, ... Oh, sick, dude. Fuck, dude. Yo, someone went back into the hospital, ... Fuck, dude. Yo, don't worry about it then, dude. You fuck it, dude. Let's just not take it, bro. ... Oh, fuck. Listen, motherfucker. The vaccine is not supposed to eradicate the disease, okay? The vaccine is simply supposed to mitigate some of the worst consequences of COVID, and it is empirically proven that the vaccine does exactly that, okay? If you found one instance where some fucking guy literally still had to be hospitalized despite taking the double vaccine dose, then that is an anomaly, okay? It is not an accident that new COVID cases have also been decreasing in places where more people are getting vaccinated. Holy shit.
And start, giving a rebuttal for everything he says. That's not productive at all. We have a serious problem right now, just as we've been discussing with the difficult position that the governor of Michigan is facing, trying her very best to get her arms around that. That's what we need to do to be able to try and help out there, as opposed to rebutting statements like you just...
Like, if that dude still went to the hospital after getting double vaxxed, remember, that dude would have fucking died, most likely, without the double vax. You understand? So, the fact that he could be alive right now to say, oh my God, I got double vaxxed, and now I have gay autism as a consequence of the vaccine, what the fuck? That dude would also be, would have the gay autism and also death as if he didn't, or well, I guess he wouldn't have the gay autism, but he would have death instead if he didn't get the vaccination, okay? Jesus Christ.
Showed on the screen. It's not helpful, it's not productive. So I would prefer to move on and look ahead how we can address the challenges that are ahead of us.
But just, do you accept that he was not listening to your advice? Was he ignoring your advice? I'm just wondering, is that a true statement? Or do you think he actually did take on board stuff you said?
Well, he did. He listened to some of the things that I and that Dr. Burke said, and then he did not listen to other things. I mean, to say that he did not listen at all to his medical advisors, I guess that tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah, it tells me that he needlessly and negligently
Yeah, extra gay. Vaccine makes you extra gay, dude. Okay, I'm bored of this. I don't want to hear this anymore. Let's watch in last week tonight. Moving on.
Our main story tonight concerns nursing homes. The absolute last thing you want Andrew Cuomo to be handling, tied comfortably with literally anything else. Nursing homes and long-term care in general are something that we tend to try to avoid thinking about. The truth is, whether due to old age or disability, many of us do or will require help with daily living. The number of Americans 65 and older is projected to nearly double over the next 40 years. And one study estimated over 2/3 of Americans who reach 65 will need long-term care at some point in their lives. And the good news is, for the rich, there are plenty of options. There are multiple upscale retirement communities where residents can transition, if needed, into full-time nursing care, like this one, taught in exquisite fashion by 2 Chainz.
All right, so the name of this episode is called The Most Expensive Retirement, right? And so this is the most upscale, luxurious retirement homes that I've ever seen and ever heard about.
The building itself costs $100 million to build. The marble, it's from Italy. It's custom carpet.
Yeah, I see a lot of art. I see the Versace plates.
Okay, extravagance of that place aside, let's all just agree, that $195 plate sucks shit. And I'm not normally a plate guy. Your boy's a saucer freak from way back. I'm a bowl bitch. Plates aren't really my thing. But even I can tell that plate is a 2. That's a 2 in Ohio. If you're going to spend that kind of money on a plate, it better be really big, really fun, or really, really hot. That plate, look at me, put your phone down and look at me when I'm talking to you. That plate fucks. But the fact...
But, like, why, dude? He's just... It's confirmed, right? Like, it's just no longer... He's no longer hiding it. Like, he's just straight up a furry, dude. John Oliver is literally a furry. Every episode, dude. Either there's someone in the writer's room that's, like, literally just straight up super furry. I mean, every day, bro. It's every day. It's every day, bro, with the Disney Channel flow for John Oliver. Another shooting in Tennessee. Okay, guys, I'm not going to cover the shooting, the breaking news.
Fact is, most of us aren't ending up in that place. In fact, the vast majority of people receive long-term care at home, and around 80% of that care is provided by unpaid caregivers, often family members who want to keep their loved ones out of institutional care, like this wife and daughter.
Cheryl and Kristen are among the 42 million Americans caring for loved ones at home, and the tasks they perform have become increasingly complex.
When we have to flush his PICC line or clean his PEG tube or take his blood glucose or his blood pressure, you know, none of us went to school for that. I mean, we're not educated that way.
I don't feel like I had enough training at all for this. We've kind of learned by trial and error.
That seems really hard. And there are certain things you kind of expect to do by trial and error, solving a puzzle, learning to pronounce the name of Tambourine Saturday, or choosing a haircut. And for the record, error, 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 and error. But providing essential medical care should not be one of those things. Taking care of someone at home can be an incredibly complicated full-time job that is almost always unpaid. In fact, in terms of lost wages, the labor of family caregivers...
Some countries will literally give you subsidies if you are engaging in home care for elderly, just like they do child care, a program that should be instituted in the United States of America as well, by the way, which I'm sure John Oliver will talk about. Yeah, it's actually something that is a necessity, in my opinion.
Totals about $67 billion annually. That's a workforce that, if it were paid, would rival the entire GDP of Bulgaria. But for those who cannot afford to eat off unfuckable plates, or whose loved ones are unable to help them at home, many wind up in long-term care facilities. There are 2 million people in them in the United States. And as we've seen during the COVID crisis, they can be far from ideal. Residents and staff in them make up less than 1% of the population, but currently account for around a third of COVID deaths. The pandemic pushed an already heavily strained system to the absolute brink, with conditions getting so bad that we're near constant local news stories like this one.
One resident here says her calls for help were ignored because there wasn't enough staff to respond.
I was screaming, "Get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of this pain." I was screaming at them. I was in terrible pain, and they didn't come for me.
Penny Shaw was in pain as she lay helpless in her bed at Braintree Manor Nursing Home in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. She became so desperate, she even called Braintree police for help.
I can't lay in bed for hours and hours, in pain like that.
Now, I have to tell you, we contacted that facility, which chose not to address its staffing levels back then in its response to us, instead insisting that the safety of its residents is of utmost importance. But that is pretty fucking hard to believe when they're calling the police for help. There are only 2 instances where lying in bed for hours screaming in pain is to be expected, and that's if you're giving birth or you're digesting a Crunchwrap Supreme. That is it. And the truth is, COVID just exposed what we've basically known for years, that the way the elderly and disabled are treated in far too many of these facilities is with, at best, indifference, and at worst, abuse and neglect. So tonight, let's talk about long-term care, how the industry is structured, how that structure creates bad incentives, and what we can do going forward. And we're going to focus on the 2 main types of long-term care facilities: nursing homes and assisted living. Nursing homes are medical facilities overseen by registered nurses and largely staffed by low-paid nursing assistants, and there have long been issues with nursing home care. A GAO report covering a 5-year period before the pandemic found that 82% of homes had been cited for infection prevention and control deficiencies, and about half had persistent problems that have been cited across multiple years. And a big reason for that may be because understaffing is a huge problem, with employees often tasked with taking care of way too many residents, as these nursing assistants pointed out just last year.
They're not being showered. People have fallen out of bed. The men aren't being shaved. People have fallen to where they fell out of their wheelchairs.
What if they need changed?
They might get it one time.
A day?
A day. We have 22 residents
Jesus
apiece
Christ.
most days. That's for one person to wash, dress, get up, 2 meals, and they're being neglected because you can't get to everybody.
I told the administrator, I'm embarrassed of my work process because I can't do what I was trained to do on how to take care of these residents.
That is obviously unacceptable. Do you have any idea how bad things need to get for you to tell your boss you're embarrassed by your work? I'm not even embarrassed by my work, and just 3 minutes ago, I joked about fucking a plate. Also, that wasn't really a joke. Call me Wolf Plate. And nursing assistants aren't just overworked, they are really underpaid. The median national salary for that job is barely $30,000 a year. And one reason is that nearly 70% of nursing homes are now for-profit institutions. And there is a lot of profit for them to make, because they don't pay staff much, but they charge you a lot. The average per-person cost for a private room is $100,000 per year. And if you're thinking, well, yeah, that is expensive, but doesn't a Medicare program that I've paid into all my life cover that? Well, no, it doesn't. Medicare only fully covers the first 20 days of nursing home care after an eligible hospital visit, then partially pays for up to 100 days. But after that, you are on the hook for all costs.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Nice. I love American healthcare, dude. It's so good. Boys, it's really fucking good. American healthcare is just, again, I have to repeat myself. American healthcare, whether it's government healthcare, and Medicare is like the most popular fucking healthcare that we have, right? American healthcare is literally eat shit and fucking die. That's it. That is the bottom line, okay? Sorry. Welcome some death into your homes, bitch. Sorry, you shouldn't have gotten old. Sorry, you shouldn't have gotten sick. That's just American healthcare, baby.
The only other way to access taxpayer help to live in a nursing home is to almost completely impoverish yourself, to basically spend your way down to the point that you qualify for Medicaid, the government program for the poor, which crucially reimburses nursing homes at less than half the average daily rate paid by Medicare. And while you would like to think that nursing homes would treat all patients the same, whether they're on Medicare or Medicaid, the truth is you might get two very different experiences. Because if you're on Medicare, you could wind up getting too much attention. Just listen to an assistant manager at one nursing home chain describe how Medicare patients there were treated.
What percentage of the therapy that you were being told to administer do you think was not necessary?
I would say probably as time went on, about 40%.
40% of the work that you were doing
Was not reasonable and not necessary under Medicare guidelines.
At another facility, the entire rehab staff signed a letter to their boss. It reads, "We've been encouraged to maximize reimbursement, even when clinically inappropriate."
That is absurd. The DOJ actually filed a lawsuit claiming that the chain that woman worked for, Life Care Centers of America, which runs over 200 nursing homes, was subjecting its patients to therapy even as they were on their deathbeds. It alleged one 92-year-old who was dying of metastatic cancer was recorded as having had 48 minutes of physical therapy, 47 minutes of occupational therapy, and 30 minutes of speech therapy just 2 days before his death. On a day, he was spitting up blood, which is ridiculous. Residents should be getting proper nursing care, not shit tons of expensive therapeutic treatments that are clinically inappropriate, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure was the original slogan of Goop. Now, LifeCare denied wrongdoing, but agreed to pay $145 million to resolve that lawsuit. And they're hardly alone here. Over the past decade, multiple other large nursing home chains have been charged with fraudulent Medicare billing practices and denied wrongdoing while paying tens of millions of dollars to settle their cases. You know, like you do when you are totally innocent. So to recap here, if Medicare is paying, the risk is that you could be billed for unnecessary treatments. But if Medicaid is paying, which remember, reimburses nursing homes at less than half the average daily rate, things could get much worse. Because if facilities want to open up a bed to a more lucrative patient, they can take drastic action.
Ronald, who was 51 and homeless, got rehab at the nursing home where he lived for more than a year. Then one night, around 10 p.m., he says an administrator came into his room.
Big smile on their face, saying we're kicking you out.
They smiled.
Yeah, and they just bundled me into a van and just dropped me off here on the sidewalk.
The Avalon Villa Care Center, through its lawyers, told NBC News it strongly disputes that it has inappropriately discharged any patients. The homeless shelter...
Hey, you're good now, bro. That's the one fucking type of thing where it's like for old care, for old folks' homes and facilities that are for long-term care, you can't really discharge someone because they're not Benjamin Buttoning. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you're good now. Like in a hospital, you discharge someone because they're good. They're healed, right? A lot of hospitals do that early on purpose because it's very expensive in the United States of America. You already know what it is. But literally, like, you can't just be like, well, you're no longer elderly. You just reversed aged, my friend.
Where Ronald's living now says it's seen cases like this before. Experts even have a term for it, resident dumping.
Oh, come on, that is just fucking evil. Resident dumping is a completely unacceptable practice. I don't even like it when residents are dumped on Grey's Anatomy. At the altar, Burke? You dump that resident at the fucking altar? How could you do that to Christina, you fucking monster? And you would hope regulators would punish nursing homes for doing things like that, but the oversight here has some massive gaps. For instance, the federal government keeps a list of so-called special focus facilities, homes that have a pattern of serious problems over a long period of time and therefore receive extra inspections. There are 88 nursing homes on that list, but interestingly, not because there are only 88 homes that deserve to be, it's because due to limited resources, the government has capped the list at that exact number, despite the fact they fully acknowledge an additional 400 facilities qualify for the program. And look, I'm not saying every list should go on forever. If a list of cutest otters was capped at 88, that'd be a perfectly fine list. But if there were 400 other cute otters that were also abusing the elderly, I'd really like to know who all of them
Yeah, I have seen I Care a lot. It is relevant.
are. And if you're thinking, well, look, that is good to know. That's good information. If I need to move a loved one into a nursing home, I'm definitely going to look online and make sure it's a good one. Well, be careful. Because while the government does have a website where nursing homes are rated from 1 to 5 stars, it has an absolutely massive loophole.
Of the 3 factors that determine an overall rating, only the health inspections are conducted independently. The other statistics, staffing and quality measures, are self-reported by the nursing home. These self-reported statistics can boost a 3-star rating into a 5-star rating overall.
The problem is, it's garbage in, garbage out. So whatever they're telling the feds are not.
Holy shit, she literally looks like the lady from I Care a Lot, which is kind of weird because that she was the villain in that one. Or
The government
anyway.
isn't going in and double checking that their numbers are accurate.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. And that is pathetic. Something as important as our nursing home rating system should not follow the same rule as every recipe on Velveeta's website, because there is just no way any of those are any good. If you're making a recipe that calls for a puddle of Lorax jizz, then don't be surprised when the finished product is equally repulsive. It's garbage in, garbage out. So given everything that you've seen so far, it's hardly surprising that, for reasons of cost or conditions, many might want to avoid a nursing home altogether, which brings us to assisted living facilities, or ALFs. Around a third of people in long-term care facilities are in one of these, and they do cost far less than a nursing home, typically around $50,000 a year. ALF started out as an alternative for those who needed help with key activities like dressing, toileting, taking medicines and eating, but only needed limited medical support. Just as with nursing homes, the vast majority of ALFs are for profit, but there are also some key differences. ALFs are largely paid for out of pocket, and they are far less regulated, making it easy for basically anyone to start one, and I do mean anyone. Take Stephanie Costa. By the age of 30, she owned 6 small ALFs in Southern California and had made a lot of money from them, enough to qualify her to appear in an episode of The Millionaire Matchmaker.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm 30 years old, and I own a chain of elderly care facilities. My net worth is $3 to $4 million, probably. I've always had this thing of taking care of older people, like sick people that are dying. I've always really felt for them, so I couldn't wait to graduate college and start my own business doing assisted living facilities like nursing homes.
Okay. There are a lot of unfair reasons that I inherently don't trust Stephanie Costa, from her driving a douchey Ferrari to the fact that she looks like an uncredited extra from an Entourage party scene to that voice, which sounds like a mouse who wouldn't dress Cinderella because it had better things.
Oh, sexism. Oh my God, dude. He's literally a furry. Oh my God. I can't wait for people to be like, that's a sexist sweaty.
To do. But it turns out that gut feeling is actually entirely valid, because Costa treated her employees and residents so terribly that after multiple health and safety violations, California banned her from the industry for life and ordered her and her company to pay about $1.6 million for unpaid wages and penalties. But if you think that gave her accountability, you're going to want to think again.
She kept this home after filing for bankruptcy and settled with workers for a fraction of what she owed. Her 6 care homes are now owned by a property investment company registered by her father.
Oh yeah, not just that. As recently as last year, she was still listed as that company's CEO. So the state of California really taught Stephanie Costa a lesson there. Specifically the lesson that you can treat your elder care workers like absolute shit, avoid any real consequences, and just keep living your life in the single ugliest home in Beverly Hills. Although it's legitimately hard to tell whether that is actually a home or just an abandoned White Castle. But it's not just individuals involved here. There are also big corporations running ALFs who've been working hard to fill up beds. And despite the fact that ALFs, remember, are supposed to be for people who require less medical attention, recently, some have been aggressively courting dementia patients for memory care programs, as seen in this advertisement for Brookdale, the largest ALF provider in the country.
This is a compassionate place that helps families through very difficult
Absolutely
stages of
not.
dementia in a safe and comfortable setting. And I have peace.
Guys, yes, the Knoxville Police Department said there are multiple gunshot victims after a shooting at Austin East Magnet High School on Monday afternoon. That's literally all the information that is available at the moment. Why the fuck do you keep fucking spamming the chat over and over again? There's literally no information. There's no information on it so far. I don't know why you keep fucking spamming it over and over again. What do you want me to do? I know there's a shooting going on. Like, there's literally nothing. What do you want me to do? Fly over to fucking Tennessee and stop it? Stop.
Peace of mind knowing your staff fully trained 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't believe how much my mom's quality of life has improved since coming here. I'm seeing her smiling and laughing again.
We help them maintain their abilities and encourage the use of their current skills in a warm, engaging environment.
This is a special place, and every day is a new beginning with lots of smiles and memories.
Okay, I get that a senior living commercial might want to have at least one staffer with their arms around a resident's shoulders. It's kind of nice, trustworthy, makes you feel safe. But immediately cutting to another one feels like a bit much, and then a third starts to make me feel a little nervous. And when that fourth one hits, as a British person, I've got to say, that is just too much physical contact. That said, even I will admit, an ALF that offered all that commercial claims to, but with significantly less touching, would really be great. Unfortunately, a woman who worked at a Brookdale facility in South Carolina painted a pretty worrying picture of how staffers are trained to work with dementia patients.
When you first start, they have you sit through a series of in-services or orientation. It lasts about a week, but it's just videos. But once they put you out on the floor, they don't give you any training. They just stick you out there.
Well, that's not really ideal, is it? Because it's hard to retain important information just by watching a video. Case in point, this video. Think about it. What have you really learned from this? Sure, a few random facts about the long-term care industry that you'll probably immediately forget. But if you're honest, you've
furry jokes.
Mainly learned that it's possible to want to fuck a plate. And that's a lesson you will never forget. And look, Brookdale insists that it offers ongoing...
Okay, dude! Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Okay. Pre-watched. Hassan is just pre-watching these videos. This is the only thing he has. Okay? He just...
training for its workers, and that its training program for dementia care workers meets or...
Listen, if there's a John Oliver intern or a writer watching this, on next week's episode, give us a sign, okay?
Pre-watch Andy.
Just leave us a sign on next week's John Oliver episode so we know you're in here, okay? I want to know.
Exceeds state guidelines, but that is not really saying much, as some states require only 2 to 30 hours of specialized training, and South Carolina, where that facility
put a basketball in next week's episode,
is located, requires training but doesn't set a minimum number of hours. And by the way, if you're wondering about why there were a bunch of shots of a pond in that story, the answer is completely horrifying. Because a 90-year-old resident there, who was supposed to be under constant supervision before being transferred to a memory care unit, died after leaving the facility unnoticed in the middle of the night.
There are signs out here warning people about alligators. Take a look at this one. It says, alligators may live here, be gator safe. In this case, the signs probably would not have made a difference, according to authorities. We are told the victim likely slipped or fell down a steep embankment and landed in the water, attracting the gator's attention.
Holy fucking shit. I honestly don't
That's the most Florida fucking thing that's ever happened.
Even know where to begin there, but I guess I'd start with
having live alligators in the backyard of an elderly care facility is literally the most OP Florida thing you can have, dude. Oh yeah, we just have an elderly care facility with fucking... I mean, that's literally just Florida problems.
Why would anyone put an assisted living facility next to a fucking alligator pond? That seems like the sort of detail that really has to be included at the end of one of Brookdale's heartwarming ads.
This is a special place, and every day is a new beginning with lots of smiles and memories. Also, one of our residents was eaten by an alligator. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah, there is that. And that's important information for people to know, Brookdale. And look...
Yeah, trying to fucking be more like Florida, dude. Do better, South Carolina.
Obviously,
I expected more from you.
Story, but to be fair, it's hard to talk about long-term care without showing you at least one.
By the way, speaking of which, they literally have it everywhere in Florida. Like, University of Miami campus actually had fucking... University of Miami campus literally had water pond in the middle of it and, like, literally had fucking alligators.
Just be grateful that I didn't show
you the story actually, I think a freshman, like, actually killed one.
Window of an ALF, or the one about a nursing home resident who set herself on fire, or the one about a 91-year-old suffering from Alzheimer's who froze to death on Christmas Day, which, by the way, sounds like a holiday album written by fucking Bjork. So what can we do here? Well, obviously, Increased oversight and enforcement are badly needed. That facility with the alligators was eventually fined by the state for 11 violations, including not properly performing night checks and letting staffing drop below required levels. But the penalty issued was just $6,400. And it feels like if you lost a loved one in such a horrific way, you would want more accountability than just, don't worry, someone decided their life was worth the price of a 2013 Chrysler Motown. And the fact is, there are lots of ideas on how to force facilities to improve. Mandating a certain level of money has to go to patient care, for instance, or that residents have access to a minimum amount of care per day. But the bigger fix here might be to try and make it easier for as many people as possible not to end up in these institutions in the first place, and instead receive whatever support they need at home. Nearly 90% of people over 65 apparently want to stay in their home for as long as possible, which does make sense. The problem is, right now, many of them can't. Because under Medicaid, nursing home care is an entitlement, but home-based care is not. To access long-term services and supports through Medicaid in your home, you need a waiver from your state. And to be fair, some, like Washington, do that pretty well. More than 70% of the Medicaid's money they spend on long-term care for older people and adults with disabilities is spent on home and community-based services. That's things like skilled nursing visits, home care aides who can help with daily tasks, and even the ability to pay family caregivers. You know, people like those two women that you saw earlier. The problem is, other states have waiting lists that can be many years long, by which point seniors trying to access that care can be dead, because sadly, that is how time works. Nationwide, more than 800,000 people are on these kinds of waiting lists. What we need is reform at a national level. And there are actually some promising developments here. A discussion draft of a bill was recently introduced that would make home and community-based care an entitlement under Medicaid. And Biden's proposed infrastructure plan actually calls for $400 billion to be...
Now, this was actually being criticized by Chris Christie in like the dumbest way possible recently. I think I was watching some of the Sunday shows. It's the stupidest fucking, like, conservatives are literally trying to criticize this, okay? This is a widely, incredibly popular provision. It's, and Marsha Blackburn and Chris Christie are literally saying, like, well, it's not infrastructure, so it shouldn't be a part of it. It's so fucking brain dead to shit on this.
And that would be a really big deal. And look, any aggressive transition to home-based care is going to need rigorous guardrails and oversight to make sure that money is not misspent just in a different way. The last thing I want is 5 years from now to be having to do a show on the evils of new for-profit home care agencies who've somehow been destroying people's lives in their own homes. And if you're thinking, wait, hold on, 5 years from now, you'll still be doing shows in the void? Oh no, we'll be back in the void. I don't want to get into specifics, but spoiler alert, it's not a pandemic next time. It's spiders. But we do need to do something. And it all starts with showing that we give a shit about what happens to the elderly and people with disabilities in this country. Because right now...
Marsha Blackburn said President Biden's proposal is anything but infrastructure because there's $400 billion going towards elder care. Can you imagine unironically being like, I don't want our healthcare infrastructure to be to get additional funding specifically for elder care. Like you're literally coming out and directly taking a doo-doo on your constituents when you say that, okay? Because old people vote, motherfucker. Like, old people literally vote, okay? Old people literally vote like crazy. This is your base. This is your base of voters. You're, one sneeze away from being elderly yourself. I mean, how old is Marsha Blackburn? Let's take a look. Marsha Blackburn age. 68 years old. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? $68 years old. What the fuck do you mean? You need elderly care, motherfucker. Shut the fuck up. You can literally order off the elderly menu at, I mean, yeah, she hides it well because she's rich, baby. That's why.
Now, evidence points to the fact that we absolutely don't, and all the other problems are stemming from that. And the longer that we continue to ignore this, the worse it's going to get, because the fact is, right now, this is an industry where the people in its care are being figuratively and sometimes literally eaten alive.
Okay. Why South Africa is still so segregated? Please comment on Brazil's current state on the pandemic. No, I don't know enough. I don't know what the fuck's going on, so I'm not going to do that. Aren't you in your 70s? No, I'm 29 years old, which is basically anything on the Knoxville shooting. No, there is no new developments on the Knoxville shooting. I literally am not going to cover the Knoxville shooting right now. What the fuck is wrong with people, dude? I don't know what people want from me. I legitimately don't know what people want from me when there is no updates, dude. There are multiple agencies on scene at the school shooting in Knoxville, okay? That's it. I don't know what, like, you think is going to change in the next hour. What the fuck? What is this? What is this shit? Stop fucking linking dumb shit. Oh, it's fucking Chet Hanks. Why South Africa is still so segregated? Let me tell you, because 90% of the viable land that is workable for agricultural production and the most expensive land is owned by 10% of the population, which is white people. White people own most of the fucking land still in South Africa that is viable for agricultural production, and they still make up only 10% of the population, whereas 90% of the population is black and own only 10% of the land. That's why the segregation has never really ended, because of the fucking apartheid state that was never fully upended. Here we go, more anti-white slander. Yes, exactly. White people just own that land and they deserve it because they took it, they strong-armed it and they took it. So, you know, it's anti-white slander to literally point out a statistical anomaly that was purposely designed as a consequence of what we know as the apartheid. I find that very strange that you're literally looking at something like this. Me just saying factually correct statements about South Africa and land ownership in South Africa is immediately assumed as anti-white by you. And the reason why you immediately assume that it's anti-white is because you recognize that that is really fucking unequal. Okay? So it must be anti-white. Okay, before we move on, before we continue with this video, though, I will be running another ad break here because it is top of the hour. What a fucking hour, mate. Okay, there's a 6-second ad break here. If you no longer want to see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5 or for free. You can do it for free by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get one free Prime subscription a month. Get those primers out, baby. Get those motherfucking primers. Here it is. Here's the 1-minute ad break now.
This strip in Cape Town, South Africa, divides the beachside community of Strand from the township of Nomzamo. They're only a few meters apart, but the people on each side live very different lives. Strand has backyards and driveways. Nomzamo is much more dense, and the people here have fewer basic services. Less piped water, less internet access, and Nomzamo is majority black, while the area across the line is majority white. If we use dots on a map to represent race, you can see how stark that divide is. If we zoom out to the whole city, we can see it's actually everywhere. And this is the case across much of South Africa. The color of your skin here often determines where you live. It also determines your quality of life. This map shows where jobs and opportunities are primarily concentrated in Cape Town. And this is where most of the city's black people live, in informal settlements called townships on the city's periphery.
People have to move by public transport for up to 3 hours.
By the way, the irony here is this is literally how most major American cities are built as well. I'm just going to let you know. Obviously, the income inequality is not as severe, or could be as severe actually in certain places, but Most American cities are built in this exact identical fashion as a consequence of redlining.
Hours a day, and they can't take care of their obligations in the community with the rest of the family because they're always working and they're always traveling.
For decades, South Africa was under apartheid, a system that wrote segregation into law. A white minority controlled where non-white people could live, work, exist. Many were forced out of their homes. In 1994, a democratically elected government